Letting go of improving other people begins the moment you notice how hard you're working at polishing everyone else's halo while your own heart is tightening. We discover that the person we're busy upgrading is really the mirror the universe is using to show us our own unfinished business. The more we try to fix them, the more the personality tightens, until we finally see that what actually heals is the silent presence behind the personality. Somewhere between I know what's best for you and I have no idea what's going on, we stumble into the humility of the soul. When you fall out of the role of helper and drop into the space of witness, everyone in the room is suddenly free to be exactly who they are. The guru, in the most inconvenient, embarrassing ways, keeps turning every attempt to improve others into a lesson about your own clinging. Service ripens from I will change you into I am here with you, and in that softening, the heart discovers a love that does not demand improvement. Even in activism and righteous anger, we begin to act without creating an enemy, seeing that the one we protest and the one who protests are the same being in different clothing. As we watch people we care about suffer, we learn the fierce tenderness of loving fully while allowing their path to unfold beyond our control. Finally, in the quiet, after all our efforts have failed, we rest as the one in whom no one needs to be improved, because all is already held in love. So here we are together, and maybe you came to this moment because of one person. You know the person you are secretly trying to improve. Maybe it's your partner, maybe your child, your parent, your friend, your client, your student, your ex, anything. Or maybe, if you're a real overachiever in the spiritual domain, it's all of humanity. And you sit there with this quiet tension inside. If only they would if only they would just listen. If only they would meditate, go to therapy, stop drinking, eat better, pray more, talk less, be more conscious. And underneath all of that is this soft little ache because I love them and because their way of being makes me so uncomfortable I can hardly stand it. Now, what a peculiar situation, yes? You and I, we start out in life as fixers. We fix our world to make ourselves safe. We fix our schedule, our room, our job, our body, our relationships, our politics, our parents in our head. We fix and fix and fix. And finally we graduate to what looks like a more noble game. I shall fix you for your own good. It sounds so holy. And then one day the universe whispers, sweetheart, notice how tired you are. I noticed it in myself years ago. There I was, this former psychology professor, with my degrees and my mind and my insights. And I had discovered all these marvelous tools, therapy and meditation and psychedelic openings, guru, ashram, chanting, all of it. And what do you do when you find something that's really working for you? Of course, you try to shove it down everyone else's throat. Gently, of course. Spiritually. With love. I remember sitting with someone I cared about very deeply, and they were completely tangled in their stuff. They were telling me the same story for the 617th time. You know that story people tell that has grooves worn in it like an old record? And I could feel my mind rehearsing a whole little sermon. If they would just sit and breathe, if they would just look, if they would just read this book, go to this retreat, meet this guru. And at that moment, as I'm polishing my helper badge, another part of me, quieter, older, wiser, just watched. Ah, it said, there's my ego again, dressed up as a savior. The personality loves to improve other personalities. It is its favorite sport. It is like an interior decorator. Move your beliefs over here, put a little forgiveness on that shelf, rearrange your diet, add a touch of mindfulness in that corner, and you'll be perfect for me. Now, if you hear that, and you feel guilty, don't. This isn't about scolding the fixer. It's about getting curious. Because you see, the moment you notice that quiet push in you, be different, be better, for my sake, you are standing at a threshold. One side of that threshold is the world of ego, roles, identities, stories, right and wrong, me and you, the helper and the helped, the wise and the foolish. On the other side is the soul. And the soul is not busy. The soul is not in a hurry. The soul is not wringing its hands over whether this being in front of you is improving fast enough. The soul is just here, radiant, patient, present. When I first met Maharajji, my guru, I was so full of my own fixerness. I had a whole bag of tricks called Western psychology and a suitcase called spiritual practice. And I had this inner sense that I was going to help the world. I had the bumper sticker in my mind, save the planet, ask me how. And then I walk into this dusty little temple courtyard in the Himalayas, and there on a tattered wooden table is this old fat man wrapped in a blanket, throwing fruit at people. That's my guru. Now, I didn't think I wanted a guru. Somebody later asked me, why do you have a guru? And I said, bad luck, I guess. Because once you have a guru, you can't hide from your own stuff. I would sit there with him thinking of all the ways I could be more holy, more surrendered, more enlightened, and he would just look at me and giggle. And in that giggle, my whole construction about who I was and what I was doing came unstuck. One time, I was very worried about someone in my life. I was carrying their suffering like a backpack. You know that feeling? Their situation is always running in the background of your mind like a bad radio station. I said to Maharajji, Baba, what should I do about this person? How can I help them? He just looked at me, eyes full of mischief, and said, love them. And I thought, yes, of course, love them. But what should I do? He said, feed them. Now, to my Western mind, this was not sophisticated advice. Where was the technique? Where was the deep intervention, the insight, the breakthrough? But he wasn't addressing the person I thought I was. He was not speaking to Ram Dass, the fixer. He was speaking from soul to soul. Love them, feed them. It took me years to begin to hear the teaching inside that simple phrase. Because when you sincerely love someone, not as a project, not as a self-improvement assignment, but as a soul, you begin to notice that love does not demand that they be different than they are in this moment. Love sees their suffering and doesn't turn away. Love recognizes the karma of their life, the way all their experiences are bringing them home in their own timing. Love does not need to hurry their curriculum, but our personalities, they're in such a rush. We live in time, in clock time, in story time. I am this age, they are that age, they should be further along, I should have helped them more by now, we're running out of time. The soul lives in another kind of time, if you can call it time at all. It sees lifetimes. It sees how long we've been dancing together, you and I, changing costumes, swapping roles, now the parent, now the child, now the teacher, now the student, now the lover, now the enemy, now the one who saves, now the one who seems beyond saving. When that perspective begins to peek through, the game of let me improve you starts to loosen. You begin to recognize that when you are trying to improve someone, you are really trying to relieve your own discomfort in the presence of their karma. Sit with that for a moment. Take a breath. Notice someone you're trying to improve. Feel the little clench in your chest, the tightening, the if only. Now, instead of racing out to rearrange them, just turn the light of awareness inward. Look at that. There is my own fear. There is my helplessness. There is my need to feel useful. When you see that, you haven't failed. You have just taken one step back into the witness. The witness is that quiet place in you that sees the WH. Whole drama without getting caught in it. It sees you as the fixer. It sees the other as the project. It sees the sadness, the hope, the frustration, the righteousness. And it doesn't judge any of it. It's like the sky watching the weather. Thoughts, emotions, roles, they're the clouds. Sometimes fluffy, sometimes dark, sometimes a full-on storm. And awareness is just there, spacious, unmoved. From the standpoint of the witness, you can embrace your impulse to help without being possessed by it. You can say internally, look at that. Here is the part of me that wants to fix. Bless you. Thank you for caring so much, and let's relax our grip a bit. Now, this doesn't mean you stop acting. It doesn't mean you become indifferent. I remember being at Rocky Flats at the anti-nuclear protests with other activists. There was such passion, such righteous anger, and rightly so, because our planet, our children, all of life is affected by our choices. People came up to me and said, "Are you for or against?" They wanted to know what side I was on, and part of me, the political part, could feel the pull to join the chorus. They are wrong, we are right, stop them, save us. But another part of me, quieter, sat there watching both sides. The workers in the plant, the soldiers, the protesters, the executives, the politicians, all of them, just souls playing their parts in the great unfolding. I saw the fear in the eyes of the police and the fear in the eyes of the protesters and realized fear is fear. The costumes are different, but the trembling is the same. So I decided I would protest from the heart, not from the enemy mind. I could stand there, speak, march, risk arrest, because that's the role this incarnation called for. But inside, I was not fighting against evil people. I was witnessing souls caught in their own karma, doing the best they knew how, given their level of consciousness. I was acting but not creating an enemy. That is karma yoga, acting without attachment to the fruits of the action. Acting as the hands and feet of the one, not as the righteous general leading the good troops against the bad people. In the same way, with the person you are trying to improve, you may still speak truth. You may still set boundaries. You may still say, "No, I cannot support you in harming yourself or others." But you speak and act from a different place. Not from "I will fix you," but from "I will be as truthful and loving as I can be, and I will honor your path." It is the difference between tightening around someone and standing beside them. One night I sat with a young man who was deeply caught in addiction. He was bright, sensitive, and drowning. I could feel every cell in me wanting to drag him out by force, to make him go to treatment, to make him see. Instead, I took a breath. I felt my own terror. I felt my helplessness. I watched the storm pass through me, and then what came out of my mouth was simple. "I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I won't pretend what you're doing to yourself is okay. And I trust that the same grace that brought me through my madness is working in your life too." No grand speech, no magic formula, just presence. He didn't get better that night. There was no movie moment where the music swells and he falls to his knees and sees the light. He kept walking his path with all its painful bends. But something in me changed. I stopped secretly believing that his salvation depended on my cleverness. I surrendered the role of manager of the universe. And you know, it's such a relief to resign from that job. I recommend it. We all grow up trained to be managers of our families, our projects, our reputations, our partners' growth. Then along comes this strange invitation from the spiritual path. What if you aren't the manager at all? What if you are the space in which the whole show appears? If you are the space, the awareness, then every person in your life is appearing as an expression of that one consciousness. The angry one, the scared one, the stubborn one, the sick one, the unconscious one. Each is a wave in the same ocean that you are. When you see that, compassion arises not as a virtue, but as a natural response. You can't really hate your own hand for being wounded. You just care for it. In the same way, when you recognize the person you are trying to improve as another version of your own being, you stop trying to hammer them into your image of perfection. You start to ask a different question. How can I be love in this moment, regardless of whether they change? Maharajji used to do this very annoying thing. People would come to him with their problems, huge problems, illness, loss, poverty, heartbreak, death. And they would beg for miracles, for fixes. Sometimes he would give specific help, and sometimes he would just pat them on the head and say, "Sab thik hai." Everything is perfect. Now to the mind, this is infuriating. What do you mean perfect? Look at the suffering. Look at the injustice. Look at this person destroying their life. But he wasn't talking to the mind. He was speaking from the perspective of the one. From that level, Every experience is the exact teaching required to bring a soul home. Every heartbreak, every illness, every failure, every addiction, every stubborn refusal to grow, it's all part of the curriculum of awakening. That doesn't mean we like it. Down here in the human realm, it hurts like hell. And both are true. It's all perfect, and it hurts like hell. The art is to hold both realities at once, to allow your heart to break open at the suffering, and at the same time to trust that there is a deeper wisdom at play. When you are trying to improve someone, you are usually stuck in only one side. You feel the pain, you see the danger, and you forget the deeper wisdom. So you tighten and push and argue and coax and manipulate. But what if in that moment you took one breath and remembered, this too is the beloved moving through their journey. I do not know the timing. I do not know the full story. Let me be humble. Humility is the doorway from ego to soul. Ego says, I know what you need. Soul says, I am how. Bear with you, and I trust the mystery that holds us both. There is a story about a man who came to see me once after a talk. He was so earnest. He said, Ram Dass, my wife isn't spiritual at all. She doesn't meditate. She doesn't read these books. She just watches television. What should I do? And you can feel the subtext. How can I upgrade her so we match? I said, well, do you love her? He said, oh, yes, I love her very much. I said, then maybe start there. Can you love her exactly as she is, television and all? He looked shocked. But then she'll never change. There's the rub. We are afraid that if we relax our grip, if we stop pushing, if we stop improving them, they will stay stuck forever. But look at your own life. Did you awaken because someone nagged you into it? Did the deepest shifts in you come because someone lectured you, or because grace touched something inside you that was ripe? I had people trying to improve me for years. Parents, teachers, partners, doctors. It was only when something in me was ready that the teachings landed. You cannot ripen a fruit by yelling at it. You can water the tree, you can place it in the sunlight, you can protect it from frost, but the ripening happens from within. In the same way, your job with other beings is not to pry them open. It is to create an atmosphere of love, truth, and presence. You become the sunlight, you become the soil, you become the patient gardener. And sometimes part of that gardening is pruning, setting limits, saying no, stepping back. That too can be an act of love. But you do it not as a judge, but as a steward of both your paths. This is where the guru becomes such a deep mirror. My guru did not improve me the way we try to improve each other. He did not sit me down and say, Richard, you must stop being so narcissistic. Here is a checklist. He just loved me. He saw through my madness. He saw the soul behind the personality. And in that unconditional love, my defenses softened. My games became transparent. When someone sees your deepest essence and loves you utterly, the personality begins to relax its frantic need to defend and impress. You start to see your own neuroses as children rather than criminals. Oh, look, there is my jealousy. There is my fear. There is my need to fix. Come here, you little rascals. Once you relate to your own stuff with that kind of tenderness, you naturally start to relate to other people's stuff the same way. Instead of, what is wrong with you? It becomes, I know this one. I have that too. Come sit by the fire. We'll be human together. And do you see what happens? The very energy that wanted to improve them becomes the energy that embraces them. And in that embrace, something mysterious is allowed to unfold. Sometimes, in that atmosphere, people do change. They soften, they open, they become curious about their own suffering. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they keep walking down paths that look to you like dead ends, and your heart breaks. But now your heart breaks open, not closed. You let the grief do its holy work. You let the tears wash away the illusion that you were ever in control. In that rawness, you may discover a deeper trust. Trust that there is a wisdom guiding all beings. Call it God, call it the Tao, call it the beloved, call it the self. Trust that your love is never wasted, even if it doesn't produce the result you imagined. Trust that being fully present with one being, just as they are, is not a consolation prize. It is the whole path. As you let go of the project of improving others, something else quietly dawns. You start to notice how much of your own identity was built around being the helper, the teacher, the one who knows. Who are you when you are not fixing anyone? It can feel a little naked at first. There you are, standing in the middle of your life without your usual role to hide in. But if you stay, if you breathe into that nakedness, you may feel a vastness opening behind it, a vast, quiet presence that is not dependent on being useful, impressive, or wise. That presence is what you actually are. The personality, this bundle of habits, opinions, wounds, roles, is like a costume you're wearing to the human party. It's a good costume. It has its charms and its quirks, but it is not the whole of you. Behind the costume is the soul. Behind even the soul is pure awareness. When you rest as that awareness, everyone you meet is another costume of the same awareness. So improving them becomes a bit like rearranging one puppet on the stage while ignoring the puppeteer. You might still do it, it's part of the play, but you no longer think that's where the real action is. The real action is in waking up to what's behind the eyes, behind the thoughts, behind the roles. Once, sitting in the ashram, I watched an old woman come to Maharaj Ji. She was poor, thin, worn by life. She brought him the smallest offering, a little bit of fruit wrapped in cloth. Her hands shook as she reached out. He took it as if it were the greatest treasure, his eyes filled with tears. There was no sense of improving her, no list of things she should do to become a better devotee, just this luminous exchange of love. Watching them, I understood something I had only grasped intellectually before. When you see the divine in another being, the question of improvement dissolves. You do not love a flower so that it will turn into a tree. You love it because it is what it is in this moment of its unfolding. You do not love a child so that they will become some ideal image. You love them as they stumble, fall, learn, break things, cry, laugh. When you love someone as soul, you are not blind to their behavior. You may still say stop. You may still walk away. But even as you do, you hold them in your heart as a part of yourself, not as an object you failed to fix. To let go of improving others is not to fall into passivity. It is to shift from control to communion. You keep acting, but the actor grows thinner. The sense of I am doing this gives way to this is being done through me. You become an instrument. As an instrument, you may be used one day to speak a hard truth to someone. The next day, you may be used to sit in silence beside a hospital bed. Another day, you may bow. I used to stand in a protest line or wash dishes or change diapers or listen on the phone in the middle of the night. Your usefulness does not come from your personal agenda. It comes from your willingness to be available. When you are available to the one, you find yourself meeting each being as they are without the extra burden of who you think they should be. You discover that the most healing thing you can offer anyone is your undivided presence. Not your advice, not your strategies, not your improvement plans, just your presence. Presence that says, I see you, I am with you, you are not alone, and you are loved. And the great cosmic joke is that in that space, people often grow. They unfold in ways you could never have orchestrated, not because you improve them, but because you stopped standing between them and the grace that is already at work in their life. So next time you feel that familiar tug to improve someone, try this experiment. Pause, take a breath, feel the tightening in you. Acknowledge it softly. Ah, here is my fear. Here is my love. Here is my desire for them to be free of suffering. Then gently turn your attention toward the awareness that is noticing all of this. Rest there for a moment. From that quieter place, ask inwardly, how may I serve here without needing to control? Maybe the answer will be words. Maybe it will be silence. Maybe it will be action. Maybe it will be stepping away. Trust the answer that arises from the stillness more than the frantic plans of the worried mind. Over time, you will notice that your relationships shift. There is more space, more honesty, less pressure, less hidden contracts. People may feel strangely safer around you because they can sense that you are not trying to edit them all the time. You will also notice that your own heart feels lighter. The burden of being everyone's mechanic is heavy. When you lay down your tool belt and sit under the tree of being, you may hear a new kind of music, a quiet, steady love humming through all creation. It sings in your friend who won't change. It sings in your partner who frustrates you. It sings in the politician you oppose, in the addict on the street, in the child on the swing, in your own aching chest. It sings in Maharaji's giggle, in the chant at the temple, in the roar of the protest, in the silence of the meditation hall, and it sings in this very moment between you and me as you listen. Let that song be more important to you than your plans. Let it guide your actions. Let it soften your judgments. Let it remind you that every being is exactly where they need to be, even when you cannot understand it. You can still care, you can still act, you can still cry, but you do it all in a wider embrace. The person you are trying to improve becomes your teacher. They show you where you still cling, where you still fear, where you still doubt the wisdom of love. Breathe with them. Bless them in your heart. And gently, quietly, let go. Not of them, of the belief that their awakening is your job. Then, in the stillness that follows, you may find that both of you are suddenly freer. Just be here now, together as you are, as they are, held in a love that has never once needed you to be better than this.